Right now, on to the point, addressing the insurance crisis.
We're never going to get to affordability if we don't get to availability.
We take your concerns to the state's insurance commissioner when he says changes will happen, plus cracking down on sideshows. How a new law could help hold people accountable.
Tracking a potential record number of 100-degree days this year, plus the break that's on the way.
And later, some Sacramento families expected to get a boost to their income. We explain how.
We start tonight with breaking news. CHP is investigating a shooting on Business 80. It happened just north of J Street. Right now, there's no word on whether gunshots hit anyone. Officers had parts of the roadway closed off, but they just reopened. Investigators say the incident appears to be isolated, but we will keep you updated on air and online as we continue to learn more. As always, thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. Tonight in California's homeowners insurance crisis, To The Point sat down for a one-on-one interview with Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara to ask what he's doing to solve this problem. In recent years, hundreds of thousands of homeowners across the state have seen their insurance get much more expensive or canceled altogether. ABC 10's Becca Hobbecker shows us what the commissioner promises to do by the end of this year.
In the last few years, most of California's major homeowners insurance companies have paused or limited business in the state, citing the rising risk of wildfire, the cost of rebuilding homes, and what they consider burdensome state regulations. In California, insurance companies are required to get approval from the state before raising rates. Companies say it often takes the state more than a year to approve a rate hike, which in recent years hasn't allowed them to keep up with inflation and rising risks.
California is at an insurance crossroad.
In response, 1 year ago, California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara announced his sustainable insurance strategy, the biggest overhaul to the state's insurance policy in more than 30 years. Lara promises everything will be in effect by the end of 2024, though it will take a while for those changes to stabilize the market.
With the reforms that we're proposing, I'm very confident that we're going to see some real change coming mid-2025. We're going to see that California is back open for business. We're going to see insurers coming back to California.
Lara's plan aims to achieve that by giving insurance companies several things they've wanted for years: a faster rate approval process, forward-looking catastrophe modeling, allowing insurers to factor in current and near-future climate models when judging wildfire risk and requesting rate hikes. Fair plan reform, modernizing the state's bare-bones, high-cost insurer of last resort, which has become many Californians' only resort as companies pull out of the regular market. And the ability to factor reinsurance, basically insurance for insurers, into rate hike requests.
California is the only state that doesn't allow for some sort of pass-through in the rates to cover a part of the reinsurance.
Details about Lara's plan for reinsurance are due out later this fall. The language of all other proposed reforms have already been published.
Consumer watchdog.
Critics argue Lara is giving insurance companies too much power and that prices will go up for consumers.
After 2 years of talk, we've given the insurance companies what they want: the right to raise rates based on secret algorithms and the right to raise rates based on reinsurance coming next, with no guarantee that people are going to be covered.
What I'm doing is playing catch up for years of other insurance commissioners not having the courage to make these reforms that should have been done a long time ago.
Again, Lara promises these reforms will be in place by the end of this year.
And Becca joining me now. Actually, the To The Point team, we got to attend a homeowners insurance event panel today. It was held by the Sacramento Press Club. We got to hear from a lot of great, panelists, a lot of good information. But what would you say were some of the key things that you took away from this afternoon?
Well, Alex, I really valued being able to hear from an advocate representing the insurance industry, a lobbyist there, also a consumer advocate with United Policyholders. The insurance industry representative with the American Property Casualty Insurance Association told us of all the reforms Lara has promised, expedited rate approvals are the most important to insurance companies. Now, meanwhile, the consumer advocate with United Policyholders worries the forward-looking catastrophe modeling will lead to insurers overestimating risk and therefore overpricing their policies. Now, as to whether and when these changes will actually begin to stabilize California's insurance market is certainly something we will be closely watching in 2025.
And look, we know that there is a lot to unpack here, which is why we are devoting an entire show to to California's homeowners insurance crisis. We're looking at how we got here, who's it affecting, and what solutions are in the works on the state and the federal level. So that will be coming up on Thursday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m. right here on To The Point. As always, Becca, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
In other news, the man accused of a triple shooting turned hostage situation in Stockton on Saturday appeared in court today. 39-year-old Sim Jackson made a shocking statement. Take a listen.
What do you want to do with your case?
Guilty.
You could get life in prison. You want to talk to a lawyer? I'm not going to accept a guilty plea today in a rainbow.
Yeah, I talked to a lawyer. I'm definitely guilty.
Don't say any more that might affect your defense.
I do want to apologize.
Don't say any more. Anything you say is being taken down.
Jackson faces charges for the murder of Kiera Shepard, attempted murder of her 6-month-old child, and assault on his ex-girlfriend and a peace officer. He will be back in court October 7th. Tonight, officials in El Dorado County are monitoring water quality near Folsom Lake after a sewage spill. The El Dorado Irrigation District says about 40,000 gallons of sewage leaked along Green Valley Road in El Dorado Hills on Sunday. Crews were able to contain the leak and clean up a large part, but some say that they may have reached Browns Ravine area of the Folsom Reservoir. Water testing is ongoing. 2 sideshows sparked deadly shootings over the weekend in Sacramento. Now community leaders and neighbors are looking for ways to crack down on street takeovers. New laws just signed by Governor Gavin Newsom could help their fight, and ABC 10's Alicia Machado has more on their calls for action.
Tire marks and debris paint a picture of the chaos that unfolded in Sacramento this weekend.
The sideshow heard 20 gunshots and someone was shot.
One person killed in a shooting early Sunday morning on Seamus Drive in South Natomas. An hour later, 2 men shot on Kelton Way and Main Avenue in North Sacramento. One of them died. The shootings are being viewed as separate incidents, but there's a common theme: sideshows. Neighbors in Natomas say they happen too often and leave behind destruction.
Hundreds of cars come, they block the street, they've crashed. When they lose control, that wall gets hit on a regular basis, and their families live there. This is a neighborhood.
Neighbors feel powerless. The Seamus Drive shooting happened in the district represented by Sacramento Mayor Pro Tem Karina Talamantes.
I fear for the safety of my community.
Talamantes hopes a series of bills signed into law by Governor Newsom Monday will help crack down on sideshows.
Now that we have more tools in our tool bucket, it's time for us to implement and do more enforcement.
The governor's office says the 4 bills are aimed at imposing stricter penalties, increasing accountability, and helping law enforcement. Assemblymember Carlos Villapudua from Stockton authored one of the bills, but says he's frustrated about his bill being heavily amended in the Public Safety Committee.
The sad part is that a lot of these bills are just not really going to do much. We wanted more. We wanted, folks to be accountable. We wanted fines. But for anything to get through public safety, they're going to slice it and dice it. So we have to take what we can get.
He says these bills open the door for discussion. Villapudua wants more to be done, encouraging local leaders to take action.
The community is crying to them, but the law enforcement is telling them, hey, there's no law yet on this. Until there's a law, then we'll do what we're supposed to do.
Sacramento Mayor Pro Tem Karina Talamantes and neighbors suggest more prevention measures in addition to enforcement, like speed bumps or roadway projects. Talamantes hopes launching a second traffic team in Sacramento will help. Still ahead on To The Point, how Sacramento families could receive additional income under a new program.
We are tracking this fall heat. 45 days this year of at least 100 degrees or above. It's a record breaker. I'll talk about the relief on the way.
Plus, new concerns over popular weight loss drug makers, why the CEO from Ozempic was pressed for answers today. We got the chief with us tonight to break down these temperatures. Monica Woods, we saw some heat today. I was ready for fall, but 100?
I absolutely, I know.
Crazy.
Hundreds up and down the valley, record-breaking temperatures for today. We're going to break it all down here. You can see those high temperatures from pretty much the north to the south. We're in the 100s today, even towards the coast. Fairfield, 100. San Francisco, close to 80 this afternoon. 90s for the foothills and close to 80 up top for this year. That 102, a record breaker for Stockton. The old record set back in 1936 at 99 degrees. So that's going to top our weather headlines is the big temperature drop. We certainly have deserved it here. Midweek temperature drop, but the heat returns this weekend. So it's just a brief break here, at least enough to knock down the AC just a little bit for a 24-hour period. The heat making a return, though, so we'll talk about some of those conditions developing towards the end of the work week for Friday Night Football. Forecast for tomorrow, we start off with morning lows in the low 60s. We pick up those southwest winds. That'll keep us in the 80s tomorrow. Sunrise at 6:57 and the sunset at 6:57 as well. Now, our low pressure system that's going to initiate that onshore flow and that cooling delta breeze is only briefly going to be with us, enough to suppress that high pressure ridge, but it comes roaring back here by the end of the week, sinking warming air and the heat returning along with it. Highs, though, for tomorrow in the 70s for the Sierra with 80s down low. Nice to get that break in the temperatures there. 60s along the coast with 80s inland. We'll see a couple of 90s sprinkled in throughout the valley, but overall a much cooler weather pattern. Heat comes back by Friday through the weekend, back near 80 for the mountains. For the foothills, we're back in the 90s, and for the Bay Area, we're close to 80 again on Friday. Our 3-day forecast: Wednesday, the cool day here, highs back in the mid-90s by Friday. We're going to stay in the mid-90s on Saturday, but then next week, starting to see a little bit more fall-like conditions there.
All right, Monica, thanks. Still ahead onto the point, Sacramento families could receive additional income under a new program. We explain how. Plus, President Biden addressing the United Nations for the final time as president, what he said about ongoing wars. Some Sacramento County families in need could soon get $725 a month under a new pilot program. It's called the Family First Economic Support Pilot. ABC 10's Roxanne Elias explains exactly how it works.
Making a certain amount of money, and it's kind of hard to make ends meet.
Barbara Mitchell says paying bills in 2024 is almost unaffordable. The retired grandmother lives with her daughter and grandson in South Sacramento. She says the hardest part is trying to figure out which bill to skip in order to buy food.
Like if you're diabetic and you know you're supposed to eat your meals every day and you can't do it, take your medicine because, you know, you get so much income, but then again, they charge you so much for your medicine, but you can't afford it.
Mitchell lives in one of the zip codes where Sacramento County is offering the Family First Economic Support Pilot. The first of its kind program gives qualifying families guaranteed payments of $725 a month for a year. It's primarily funded through the state block grant funding provided to Sacramento County's Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services. People who want to apply must meet all of the following requirements. First, you must be parents or legal guardians of Black, African American, American Indian, or Alaska Native children between the ages of 0 and 5. Second, families must have an annual household income under 200% of the federal poverty level. For example, your annual household income needs to be less than $40,880 if 2 people live in the household. And third, families must live in one of these zip codes: 95815, 95821, 95823, 95825, 95828, or 95838. Mitchell says the money would help her family with paying bills, but not everyone is a fan of the idea. Another person who did not want to go on camera says he feels programs like these are enabling people and thinks there are other solutions for people to make ends meet. Mitchell says she doesn't have much of a choice.
Because things is going up and up and up. But the money situation is not going up.
And we do want to mention that applications for the program open on September 30th. 200 people will be randomly selected from those who apply and meet those eligibility requirements. The opportunity to get into one of Elk Grove's latest affordable apartment projects is now open through a lottery system. So here are the details. One option is the Lila Apartments and the other are the Mosa Apartments. Both are located off Bruceville Road. If your number is called, you'll be able to complete an application for new complexes. The city says most of the units will be available to households making 30% to 80% of the area median income for Sacramento County. Applications will be accepted through October 20th, and you can find more information on how to apply by just going to our website, abc10.com. Turning now to the race for the White House. We are just 6 weeks away from the election. Early voting has already begun in some states, and both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are on the campaign trail making their case to voters. Vice President Harris is reportedly planning her first visit to the southern border since becoming the Democratic nominee for president. The New York Times reports that Harris will visit the border during a trip to Arizona on Friday, and it comes after a new poll showed former President Donald Trump now leading by 5 points in that state. In the meantime, former President Trump is focusing on trade tariffs. While campaigning in Georgia today, Trump threatened that if elected, he'd put a 100% tariff on every car coming into the U.S. from Mexico. He also made promises last night in Pennsylvania to keep U.S. steel American-owned. And it comes as President Biden today delivered his final address to world leaders at the United Nations General Assembly. He focused on cementing his foreign policy legacy under the cloud of multiple wars.
In his final address to the UN General Assembly today, President Biden rallied world leaders to come together and tackle some of the biggest challenges.
I truly believe we're at another inflection point in world history. For the choices we make today will determine our future for decades to come.
The president has said seeing an end to Israel's war with Hamas is a top priority before he leaves office. But ceasefire negotiations have stalled and tensions have risen with fears of a wider conflict in the region. Biden calling for a diplomatic solution.
I put forward with Qatar and Egypt a ceasefire and hostage deal. Now is the time for the parties to finalize its terms, bring the hostages home, and secure security for Israel and Gaza free of Hamas' grip, ease the suffering in Gaza, and end this war.
Biden also doubling down on support for Ukraine at war with Russia. Just today, Ukraine's Air Force saying Russia launched an attack, sending 81 Iranian drones into Ukraine.
We cannot grow weary. We cannot look away. And we will not let up on our support for Ukraine. Not until Ukraine wins a just and durable peace.
The speech marking his last chance to address world leaders, Biden using the opportunity to highlight his accomplishments as president.
Let us never forget, some things are more important than staying in power. It's your people. It's your people that matter the most.
And Biden is scheduled to meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky this week. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will also be in town this week, but at this time, officials say there are no plans for him and Biden to meet. Meanwhile, in Washington today, lawmakers grilled the CEO of the company that makes Ozempic and Wegovy over the price tag of the drugs. Novo Nordisk charges Americans with type 2 diabetes around $969 per month for Ozempic. Other countries like Canada and Germany pay far less. Americans struggling with obesity pay even more for Wegovy at an estimated $1,300 a month. Armed with charts, facts, and figures, Senator Bernie Sanders wanted answers.
You are charging the American people substantially more for the same exact drug than you are charging people in other countries. And my question is, why?
It is a very complex market and very complex healthcare system that creates a lot of misunderstandings.
Senator Sanders says Novo Nordisk has made about $50 billion from the drugs. The CEO blames the U.S. healthcare system and pharmacy benefit managers for keeping the cost of drugs high. All right, make sure you stay with us because after the break, we'll show you what we're working on for tomorrow. ABC 10 is celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and if you live in Sacramento, you probably already know about popular Mexican restaurants like Mayoel and La Cosecha and Cesar Chavez Plaza, but you might not know about the owner behind it all, Ernesto Delgado. Well, coming up tomorrow, On to the Point, we show you how he's creating a hub for Mexican food and culture right here in our city. As always, thank you so much for spending part of your day with us, and you already know what to do. If you have something that you think we should be looking into, make sure to reach out to me and the team. And remember, strangers are just people we haven't gotten the chance to meet yet, so take the time to get to know someone. And To the Point does not end here. To watch stories featured on our show, make sure you download our free ABC 10 Plus app wherever you stream. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hey, it's Alex. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. The To The Point team and I love hearing from you, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. And don't forget, you can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send us a text message at 916-321-3310.